Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from OurSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Thursday, November 7th. Notre Dame's got a home night game coming up against the Florida State Seminoles, who will bring their one win to South Bend. Notre Dame's going to make their push here towards the college football playoff. They started out ranked 10th in the initial college football rankings. I'm going to put those up in a second. We're going to talk about that. Surprises, who we think is overrated, underrated, that sort of thing. We're going to talk about Notre Dame's recruiting weekend that's upcoming. It's been billed for the last couple of weeks as one of Notre Dame's biggest, and that has turned out to be true in terms of key players. They've got some 2025 targets that are going to be on campus, some big names, and then they got a bunch of 2026 guys as well as well as a bunch of current commits. So that's going to be a big one. And then we'll talk about the game as well. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whenever it is, we are going to go live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And Jamie, we've got some big news here. Okay. Ge has shared a preview. We've been talking about the holiday season coming up. Part of that is Black Friday. Okay. Black Friday is always big after Thanksgiving time. Ge has shared his Black Friday plans with us. Okay. You're going to want to lock in for this. His secret Black Friday sale exclusive to Irish Sports Daily. ESQ will match percentage-wise whatever Notre Dame scores against Army on November 23rd using code ISD. Notre Dame scores 48 points against Army. Guess what? You're getting 48% off of your ESQ gear, ESQ stuff. The sale will go live Sunday the 24th for 1 week. So you have 1 week to take advantage of this. Notre Dame scores 48 points. They score 50 points. That's how much percentage off you are going to get from ESQ clothing. Be prepared to get gifting. Valid online items only, not valid for gift cards. So that's what's going on with ESQ clothing for Black Friday, the week after. The percentage points that Notre Dame, or the points that Notre Dame scores against Army, Ge will match percentage-wise on the website. So do you want to check, you want to take advantage of that great deal. AJ Sullivan's here. He says, "What's up, boys?" Hello, AJ. Thank you for being here. Josh Miller, hello. Where would Riley Leonard rank in the Big Ten as far as quarterbacks? Let's just do off the cuff, Jamie. Dylan Gabriel, would you put him behind Dylan Gabriel at this point? Given the way,
yeah, probably, I would probably put him behind him. Yeah.
I think that's probably fair. Let's go towards Will Howard, Ohio State. Where would you put those two?
I'd put him. I'd take him over Will Howard. That's just me.
You take Riley Leonard over Will Howard. Okay, let's go down the list. Drew Aller. Where would you put Riley Leonard vis-a-vis Drew Aller there?
I mean, I like Aller more than I know a lot of people like him. But you'd probably take Leonard. Or I mean, I think it would be close. I mean, but I would probably take Leonard.
They could really use his running.
Yeah,
because they're not a great running team right now for whatever reason. I don't really understand it. They have good backs.
I don't know why they don't run Aller more. It makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean, Riley Leonard's a better runner than him, regardless of whether or not they should run him more. Like you were saying during the game, I don't understand why they're running power at the goal line with Drew Aller. They did this against USC too early in that game when they got stopped on fourth down. They didn't run the ball as like they should have. Their goal line play calling's been suspect all year. So, anyone, the quarterback for Indiana. Well, where would you?
I would take Rourke. I mean, you'd have to say if you were going to say today, who's the, first team All Big Ten. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably first team All Big Ten. I understand they haven't played a tougher schedule than these other teams, but yeah, just numbers wise, like he's been awesome. So yeah, I think he'd probably go with Rourke. By the way, also Canadian, so I'm going to give him the edge there.
I mean, it's obviously that entire conversation is now colored by the bias that you hold towards,
yeah, of course,
of your countrymen. Altemeyer from Illinois,
any day.
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there. Is there anyone that I'm missing on the?
I don't think there's anybody else
in
the conference that you would take over him.
I think hands down 2 players. I think Rourke and Dylan Gabriel. He would be third in the Big Ten, I believe. Is kind of where we're at. You could quibble with Aller and Will Howard if you want. I kind of agree. I tend to agree with you in terms of like how you ranked it. But you could quibble there. But I think Howard and Aller and Leonard are just kind of like so similar. It's just like they kind of tied for third. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a difference. Good question, Josh Miller. Good palate. Good way to tease the palate there in terms of a conversation. But since we're talking nationally a little bit, let's throw up the college football rankings. I'm not putting the playoff matchups up because it's going to fluctuate so many times. I just want to see where teams are ranked here. Notre Dame comes in at 10. I think that's fair. I don't have a big problem with that. BYU's ahead of them. Indiana's ahead of them. Penn State, again, we talked about it on Tuesday. Penn State being at 6 ahead of Indiana and BYU is such a disgrace. I cannot. Like that is there's no logic to it. It just comes down to we felt like it and we can do whatever we want. BYU, they have two wins over teams on this list, and Penn State has 0. How do you defend it? How do you defend it?
I don't think you can defend it. I don't think you can defend it. I mean, even if you were going to say like, I mean, I don't know, Tennessee doesn't really have like maybe that great win on their schedule either. I guess their best one is LSU. Or no, did they play LSU? Wait, now I'm getting confused here.
They have a big, didn't they beat Alabama?
They beat Bama. That's what it was. Yeah. That's their big win. But like, I think if you look at it like from that perspective, like Penn State, even their wins that are like so-called good wins, like they're against like teams that are 5-4. Like I don't think they didn't deserve to get the bump there. Like if you had Penn State 9 and Notre Dame 10, okay, whatever. Razor thin margins, okay, whatever, right? Like I don't. I
think you want to like the LS the NIU, right? Like we're bumping you because of that.
Yeah, they played a close game. They lost a close game where they could have scored, to tie it against 4th and goal against Ohio State. Okay, fine, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they should be above those other teams. To me, that was like Ward Manuel's the guy, and he's the Michigan athletic director is the head of, and that was like giving a nod to the Big Ten there or something, because I didn't think that was I don't think it made a lot of sense to me.
No, it's nonsensical. It's indefensible. Like he said there was a back and forth game. Even so, like even if you share that framing, which I don't, but even if you do, they still lost. Like they lost the game. BYU and Indiana, BYU specifically, they have not lost, and they've beaten teams that are ranked on your list, top 15 teams. Like SMU's 13th. That's the only loss is to BYU. They beat Kansas State. They butchered Kansas State. Granted, it was kind of a fluky way that it happened, but still, like they did do it. And so like you have them 3 spots behind is just it's just unacceptable. Like I don't think you can do it. So look, Notre Dame's sitting at 10. I'm totally fine with it. They've got wins over 14 Texas A&M, 22 Louisville. They're going to have a chance against 25 Army. Is there any update on their quarterback?
No, I mean, they're not going to get it.
We're not going to get it either. Yeah,
we're not going to get it until they just play. So, everyone should just assume that he'll play against Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that's just the way to look at it, and we'll see whether or not, like, because it's like one of those things where they didn't talk about how big of a deal it might be for Blake Horvat's thumb. Turned out it ended up being a pretty big deal, right? So it's like, we'll see what it is. I mean, who knows what he's actually dealing with.
Yes. So the thing I'm worried about there is like they can lose kind of any game if he's not playing. And so Notre Dame, our Army losing prior to facing Notre Dame with their quarterback obviously would drop them way out of the rankings. So
yeah, I'm hoping he's back this week.
Same. Ole Miss there. Got some just going through the LSU at 15 is interesting. That's an interesting thing. I like Boise State at 12. The only loss is to Oregon, and Oregon's obviously good, and that was a very close game as well
on the road.
Many people could say that is more that game was more back and forth than the Penn State Ohio State game, frankly. So that's something to keep in mind.
As Drew pointed out too, they didn't score an offensive touchdown in that game.
No, there are no offensive touchdowns. Like it literally wasn't back and forth. Once Ohio State took the lead, they never lost the lead. And so, I mean, it was much closer to being 24-3 at one point than it was a close game. So that's the situation there. I think we like Notre Dame's positioning. If they continue to win out, they should be fine, right? It would probably be better for them if SC started winning some games. Just in terms of this rankings, it'd be better if Army would be undefeated when Notre Dame played them in New York. So we're going to have to monitor that. But Notre Dame, look, just take care of business, I think, on their end, and they should be fine. Let's talk a little bit recruiting, Jamie. We haven't talked recruiting that much on this show, partly because it's been very quiet. There's been a lot of 2026 movement, but they've got some heavy hitters coming into South Bend. Notably, let's talk about Nolan James first. He's a running back, and we're going to lead off with him because there's a little prediction that went in on a little website called irishsportsdaily.com by someone known as Matt Freeman, who is crushing things on the Notre Dame beat as always. He put in a prediction for Notre Dame, 3-star running back. Jamie, you've gotten a chance to watch this film. I'm going to put up some highlights here in just 1 second. What would this mean to add to Justin Thurman? What do you think this means to the Notre Dame recruiting class? Should they close the deal this weekend with him?
Yeah, I think it would be a great pickup because it's one of those things where I think everyone kind of felt pretty similarly about Daniel Anderson, like a bit perplexed why he was in the class. And then I think with James, I think that it's, you can see, I mean, he's having a monster senior season.
Yeah.
I don't think like you can see on that thing, obviously he scores the long touchdown here. He scores here. Not elite speed, I wouldn't say that, but like, look at the feet.
Yeah.
Like great feet, great balance after contact. A guy who really, is a good back, like a really, really good back. And I think, people have talked about kind of like, similarities to, put a shoulder down, have a little bit of power there too, like a la Kyron Williams, and people have kind of mentioned him, in that respect. But I kind of thought he was like very much like a Jalen Warren type, the guy who was at Oklahoma State, who Notre Dame played against in the bowl game, and obviously he's with the Pittsburgh Steelers now. But just the same guy who kind of like runs compact. And got some like good like initial burst, maybe not like a total home run hitter type, but really like runs hard, hard and good feet, right? So that's a guy that I think he kind of reminds me of. I mean, either way, like whatever, pick whoever you think that you think he's like. I think he's a good back, right? Like I think he's a good back, definite upgrade on Anderson, and like a good second back in the class too. A little bit different because Thurman, who I think has had a pretty good senior season, like to me, he made a jump. Like he made quite a bit of a jump, and he's more of like the home run hitter, straight line speed dude. And this is more of the guy that I think you could see, third down role, Um, but more every down kind of, that kind of thing where you're like, this guy can run in between the tackles and like really, really have a lot of success.
To me, this is the Kyren comp for me. I never really saw the stuff with why can't I think of his name? Aeneas Williams. God, goodness gracious. Aeneas Williams. I could never see that. Like I didn't see it in terms of like size, yes, but in terms of style, I didn't see it. And to me, this James fits that. This is the style for me, where it's like it very is like the feet, kind of the shorter legs, right? Where it's just like that's where the feet come in. He's never off balance. He can always hit that quick cut. It works in the hole. We saw a couple of clips of that where it's like he's in the hole. He's able to make that quick little cut and change direction. It makes people miss in tight spaces. And it's like you said, just kind of lowering that shoulder when the opportunity presents itself. I thought that was very close to Kyren there. And then as he gets into the open field, you see like he doesn't have that acceleration that makes that, that goes from would take someone from a 3-star to like 4 or 5-star guy. He just doesn't have that, that acceleration, that elite kind of burst that propels you up higher in the rankings. But practically speaking, right, as a running back, this is what you want. You said Jaylen Warren. Yeah, this is like you said, Jaylen Warren. He was a very, very good back in college. He's a good back in the NFL right now, So these guys can make NFL rosters and be very successful. This is what Notre Dame needed from their running back position. The running back, if were they to land him, the running back recruiting makes a lot more sense to me in terms of just like what they need on the roster. So we'll be monitoring that throughout the week, or the weekend, I should say. Matt will be all over that. Matt and Christian will be all over that. So James Nolan, he'll be he's from New Jersey. He'll be in. Antoine Parham, we've talked a little bit about him in terms of size, in terms of body. It's exactly what Notre Dame needs. He'll be coming in. I think the fact that he's coming in for the visit, I think Notre Dame feels good about that. And hopefully they can close the deal. They've also got a wide receiver coming in by the name of Derek Meadows, who people may remember. He's committed to LSU now. Notre Dame, people thought that he was heavily favored for Notre Dame. Do you have a read here? I don't know what I don't really know what's going on with this. Like why he's fishing around Notre Dame. I know there's a lot of rumors about Bryce Underwood. He might flip to Michigan, things of that nature. I don't have a read here. Mike's talked a lot about Power Hour on. He's talked a lot on Power Hour about Meadows and the lack of numbers. I'm just kind of curious where you're at with that. Are you okay with the lack of numbers? Is it a big red flag for you? What are your thoughts here?
It is red flaggy. Yeah. It just is. Like he should dominate physically. There's zero reason why he shouldn't be dominant.
Like the theory of the case is like he's such a physical talent. The upside. It's like, why can't you realize the upside in high school then? Like,
It also seems like, because he kind of like went up, and obviously physically, like, he's got the track times, he's got the size and the measurables, everything that you kind of want to see from it. And like, he tested out at, Notre Dame and would test it out really, really well too. Right. Yeah. So he's athletically at his size. There's just not many people like it, right? Like him. But it's weird that he isn't the best player on the field.
Yeah.
Like he should be. Like, I mean, I remember like an Invasion when he got offered, he dropped the ball a lot, like on that day.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe like reliability's got something to do with it. Certainly nobody kind of wants that to be a thing all the time. But I just don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Um, Also, I don't really kind of get like what's going on with him, and like maybe he's looking around because Underwood, or Bryce Underwood, who's the
Mm-hmm.
5-star quarterback who's committed to LSU, is looking around. Um, but outside of that, I just really don't know why he's kind of doing what he's doing. Um, so it's confusing to me. It's totally confusing to me. Like, um, maybe he shouldn't have committed in the first place if he wasn't, and maybe that's just what it is, right?
Right.
He's just kind of like keeping it open. Obviously, he's the guy you take. You would take, because just if he hits whatever, obviously he could hit big, right? Because
Yeah.
he's just a different, level of guy. But it's really weird. It's really weird that he's not dominant.
Yeah. Tyler from Locked On Irish, Tyler Wojak. He texted me earlier in the week and he asked me, like, is Meadows worth the trouble, whatever trouble there is. I mean, going after a committed player to LSU, like, there's some stuff involved, right? And especially because of the past history with Notre Dame, and they thought that he was going to be in the class and then he didn't. Like, is it worth kind of all this? And I said yes, because you need the skill set, regardless of what you think about him. The skill set is the skill set, and you want it on your campus. They don't have it. CFB Hurt says does Meadows equal Merriweather with a question mark? To me, I think that the Tobias in high school was very productive. He was very
dominant.
productive. Yeah, he did exactly what you want Meadows to do, and he's not. So personally, I think Tobias was given up on. I don't want to get too into it, because I think he was given up on too soon, in my opinion. He was a sophomore. I think there's still a chance for him to be a good football player, but I think he does equal Merriweather in that they need that skill set. They need a long guy who can run past people, and they don't have that right now. If you look at, like, Bo Collins is gone. Jaden Thomas isn't really that type. Jordan Faison certainly isn't that type. Cam Williams isn't that type. Micah Gilbert isn't that type, right? They're bigger, but they don't have the length. And Antavius Richardson does. Parham does. And Meadows does. So, like, that's the skill set that they are after. So I am totally fine with Notre Dame going in that direction, right? But regardless of the ranking, he can do what he can do, And so I'm fine with them taking a flyer on that, right? Like, that is kind of where I'm at. Like you said, it's red flaggy. It's you got to be able to do it in high school, right? It's like a Moneyball, when it's like Billy Bean's talking about this prospect, and it's like, oh, he's got a classic swing. Like, he looks real good. Ball flies off the bat. It's like, if he's good, why doesn't he hit good? And it's like, well, we got to get him against. So he's going to hit good against big league pitching. Like, and so that's going to make him a better hitter. It's going up against better pitchers. It's kind of like that with Meadows. It's like, if he's so good, why doesn't he do numbers? And it's like, well, they've got others. So it's like, so we put him against the Christian Grays of the world, and it's going to be better. So, like, that's kind of where I'm at with it. But take him. Take the skill set. I'm totally fine with taking elite skill sets like that. Other players on
Well, it's like
campus.
Justin Scott. It's like Justin Scott is the way that I would put it.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
Because, and it's like, you'd be stupid not to take him and not to give full effort, because he has just tools that are just very few people have, and especially out of, like, a kid from Chicago. There's not many kids like that coming out of Chicago, the Midwest, whatever, right? Like, there's just not many kids like that. It's why, he gets offered a huge bag by Miami and whatever, right? Like, it makes sense. But, and I know he's playing like a tiny bit this year. Like he's not a rotation guy. Like he's like plays garbage time or whatever. But like, or he plays like maybe like a few plays here or there or whatever, right? But mostly garbage time, and he easily like should be a first round pick one day, but he might not be, because I don't know, like he should have dominated way more than he did, right? So it's like, okay, well, we'll see. And some guys, whatever, mature into it. But it is one of those things that I don't know. It definitely does not. You'd feel a lot better if he did. You'd feel a lot better if he did dominate.
Yeah. Johnny S is asking, how is Tobias now? I check in a little bit on Notre Dame transfers. Tobias broke his foot in like the last practice of fall camp. I think he was set. I know he was definitely set to start for them. Who knows how it would have gone? I saw some clips online. He had some really good one-on-one clips from camp, but he broke his foot. I imagine he's redshirting just because he had one available. Because he had played 5 games as a freshman, then he played all the games last year. So he's probably just taking a red shirt because he had to miss like 2 months or something like that. So that's what's going on. He hasn't played in a game. He's been injured. So that was unfortunate. But anyway, I don't want to belabor that point. It's an open wound for some people or whatever. So we'll but my overall point with that is like you want that skill set on the team. They don't have that right now. So it's good to take guys like Antavius Richardson, who will be on campus. It's good to take Parham. It's good to take Meadows. It's get that skill set on your team and see what you can make of it.
Also, Parham's nickname, Megatwan.
Megatwan.
It's a pretty great.
You love Antoine Parham. You love that Megatwan. That's good stuff. The streets. The streets always give you a good name, Jamie. The 2 linebackers, Madden Faremo and Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, will be on campus. Notre Dame they're trying to Madden Faremo. I don't. That's another one. Like I all of these guys that are going to be there, it's kind of hard to gauge. I think there was like over the summer, people thought Madden Faremo was going to be in the class, was almost assuredly going to be in the class. I think Ohio State was backing off because they were so certain that he was going to be in Notre Dame's class, and he is not. So Notre Dame's going to try to close that deal. Same with Owusu-Boateng. He just came off a visit to Michigan. It seems like Michigan is in good position, but I think with Owusu-Boateng, it's a question of he likes Notre Dame. Will he like it enough to actually pick Notre Dame? A lot of guys like it, like the idea of it, but then they don't actually do it. And Notre Dame's got to see, can they close the deal? Can they close the deal on these guys? It would change the linebacker class for sure. Any read on this you have there, Jamie?
I mean, I don't have any read on Owusu-Boateng. I just think that it's, he just seems to be, he loves the visits he goes on. So it's like, he's very, like, he doesn't seem to be settled on anything in terms of, anytime you hear like, oh, this team's lead, like it feels like it flips a lot. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I think the Fermo is the guy that they need more in the class. He could grow into a Viper. That is a possibility. But also too, like he's a guy who played safety. He's only played, this is only his second year of linebacker, right? Like he played safety as a sophomore, moved to linebacker as a junior, played a little bit of edge as well, but it's mostly played like as a off ball Mike. And I mean, he looks good. He looks really good in his senior year. And like, there's very much, I mean, I'd put him in just like a tier below KVA as a prospect, but he's a pretty darn good prospect in terms of like physicality and just like size and all of that, like, just his like willingness to like blow up a guard and stuff like that you just don't see from a lot of like young linebackers. Like he's not just like a hit and run guy, like he isn't that guy. So and you just love his like frame and everything, and just I'm a huge fan of his. So I think he's important guy because he's like a sub package guy too. So I the only read is that he clearly hasn't, he didn't want to make a decision based on anything, and maybe he just wanted to like go to a bunch of games and stuff too, right? So it could be that too. But I'll say this, it never seemed like, even though maybe some other teams jumped in the mix, it has never seemed like Notre Dame has faded for him. So I think that's got to be a pretty good sign that I just have a feeling Notre Dame will get him in the end.
Okay. All right. It would obviously be huge for the class, just in terms of, like you said, that the skill set is what you want, like those versatile guys. And like, man, you're a linebacker, you don't want to play for this defense, you don't want to play for this coaching staff.
Yeah.
This like kind of know better in college football. There's a lot of good. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good defensive coaches and whatever, but you can't. I don't know that you can put many above Notre Dame right now, and just in terms of how you're gonna get coached and how you're gonna get
developed into an NFL player.
I mean, look at the young guys they have playing right now. Just leaps and bounds above where they were last year, and then KVA is just a sophomore, or just a freshman. Excuse me. Tell me about Jalen Wiggins, the Florida commit on the D line. Tell us about him. We haven't talked about him much on the show, but what's your read on him? What's your scout on Wiggins?
Yeah, so Jay Lamont mentioned like they need 3 techs, like Notre Dame needs 3 techs. Well, he's going to be a 3 tech. Like he's, he plays edge mostly, but he plays a little bit inside. But he's going to play defensive tackle in college, and be a 3 technique. And you just love his size and like the flashes of violence you see from him. He doesn't play. There's a lot of inconsistencies with him in terms of like how he uses his length and all that, but he's super long. Like he's got an 82-inch wingspan. He's got like just a monstrous frame. He has extremely, extremely high upside. And I like that. I think he's looked more flexible, a little bit better laterally to me as a senior as well. So I definitely think like he made the kind of progress I wanted to see with him. He's going to probably take a little bit of time in terms of his technical development, but that's just like every defensive lineman for the most part. But you just look at, the traits. This is like the main thing. It's like, if the guy doesn't have the traits on defensive line, like it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Right. And he has traits that are elite. So I think he is a super, super important. It kind of like, that's what they're missing really in that, on the defensive line in this class, really, because you kind of thought, well, maybe Burgess was going to grow into that, but it doesn't look like it. I haven't seen, the senior film of Rafe, like in what his senior film looks like, but I'm Joseph Rafe, who's committed, but I'm really interested there, like, and kind of where he's at size wise. I loved his junior film too, but he didn't like have a great Irish invasion too. So to me, like, you're looking at a 3 tech guy, like Wiggins would be an important guy if they could land him. Probably not a good thing that, they just kind of, Florida decided, what a weird thing to come out and just say, hey, by the way, we're keeping him. You could just not say anything. Right. And just whatever, right? It feels like dreaded vote of confidence. Now they're going to get blown out these next couple games, and then they're going to fire him. But I don't know. Like, I think, like, based on that, they'll probably have the same defensive line coach, all of those kind of things. And they'll just kind of be able to like go from there.
Yeah. Hopefully they can get there. Cause like, Jalen Mott's right. They really need 3 techs in a big way for this recruiting class. So there's a lot to track for Notre Dame in the recruiting aspect of things. They need to close as well as they can. I think a wide receiver and the defensive tackle especially. Those are kind of the big ones for this class specifically. And then getting that star power at linebacker would also be good. And then getting someone like Wiggins would also be huge. And there's a bunch of 2026 players. Thomas Davis Jr. is on campus. Jet Washington, that kid, Jet Washington's a good football player, boy. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I want to hear about where he's at with Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's going to have a chance there. He's also from Bishop Gorman. He's a teammate of Derek Meadows, but that's the goods, Jet Washington. So hopefully Notre Dame can get some headway there, because it would be very fun to cover him and break down his film and all those other things. If you need film to have people like us break down, Jamie, if you need a highlight tape, if you need anything like that, right? You need good tape. Sometimes the tape is bad. You got to get in a good media company that'll take care of you and give you some tape that people can break down and appreciate. And if you want to go do that and you're a high school player or whatever you might be, go to VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Let's transition to the football game this weekend. Notre Dame against Florida State. You wrote today in 6 Thoughts about Mitchell Evans and Notre Dame taking more advantage of him. Kind of tell us what went into that. What you kind of found there. I think you found some information from our good buddy Michael Bryan from 18 Stripes on him, average depth of target type things. What did you see on Mitchell Evans? How can we expect kind of a breakout from him? What would that look like in the coming weeks?
Yeah, shout out to MB, who did a piece for 18 Stripes, kind of like breaking down where the Irish are in terms of some of the advanced stats. But like, man, that it is crazy that Mitchell Evans was so ADOT, the average depth of target was 10.2 last year, 10.2 yards. It's 3.5 this year. So 17 of his 20 targets this season have been less than 10 yards down the field. So last season, 24 of his 40 targets were 10 yards down the field. Like, that's a massive difference. It was, basically, 60% of his, targets were, over 10 yards last year. And now it's 15%. Like, that's insane. Those are insane numbers that it's different. And you could say some of that on him getting back from his injury and, whether or not he's exactly the same guy that he was last year. But I don't know about you, Greg. Like, I don't think he's looked maybe exactly the same. He doesn't look slow to me. He doesn't look slow. He doesn't look
much different to me.
They're just not throwing it to him. They're not giving him those routes anymore. They're not throwing it to a vertical. They're not like throwing, all those intermediate stuff. And I have to think some of that is just like, that's Mike Denbrock, which is funny because you think of like a tight end coach. It's like, well, of course you want to get the tight end the ball, but he didn't really do that when he was at Notre Dame the first time. And some of it was like who they had at the position at that time, right? Obviously, like Durham Smythe was there, and it was like, he wasn't.
Look what they do with Miles Taylor, though, at LSU.
Yeah, but he didn't really do that, because that's the other thing that because I was like, okay, well, what was, his, and it was just like 4.9 last year, and like that is, not based on his skill set. And he is a great athlete. Mason Taylor is a great athlete. Like he's probably going to be a pretty high pick, in the NFL draft. And so he had 40 targets less than 10 yards last year and only 7 more than 10. And this year his ADOT is 7.5 yards.
Yeah, it's higher.
And some of that is like, well, they don't have Malik Neighbors and they don't have Brian Thomas Jr. So it's like, yeah, they're going to kind of target him a little bit deeper now, and they're going to do some of this more of this stuff. But like, I don't know, like Mitchell Evans is too good to be a check down guy. Yeah. Just in my, I mean, I think he kind of proved it last year.
Yeah.
And even if you go to the highlights too, it's like this guy was making like ridiculous, like one-handed grabs, like whether he was like in tight coverage or not, he wins contested. He does all these things, whether it was like man or zone, whatever, right? Like, why aren't you using that more? Like, to me, that is like some of that is probably Riley, Leonard and his comfortability and like, him not throwing the ball as much like they're, in that area of the field and them kind of growing into that. That's some of it. And some of it is like, they don't protect as long, so they just don't throw it as deep. So if you look at like his 10 plus yards attempts compared to Hartman last year, just based on percentages, like 40% of Hartman's were 10 plus yards last year. It's 30% for Leonard. So obviously there's a little bit different, and like guys are going to feel, a different comfort level with that, based on it. And then obviously too, they feel better about the wide receivers this year than they do last year. That's part of it. But I mean, they've thrown it to him 3 times over 10 yards. He caught all 3 and they got first downs. Like, I kind of thought like after they threw that one and, that one kind of like deep ball, that was like a 50-50 ball where the guy interfered with him, that I was like, oh, maybe they're going to start doing that more. And they didn't. Yeah. And I saw like, and I went back and I was like, was I just seeing this? Was I just thinking this in my head when I watched like the catches he made in the Purdue game? And it's like, was I just seeing this? Am I crazy? Is he really like that, Brent? So, and I know like whatever, off the air, we've talked with Matt, and Matt's like, well, look at Mitchell Evans in this year and his difference. I'm like, I don't think it's the knee coming back from it. And not to say that it won't be something that bothers a Botello next year, a Boubacar next year. I think, the severity of their injuries and the timing, whatever, we'll see where they're at. But I don't think Mitchell Evans is that different of an athlete this year. Maybe slightly, but not big enough that I'm like, you're not going to throw the ball to him down the field more. So,
yeah. Well, it's like you can't throw a vertical. Can't throw a vertical. Yeah. You can't throw like a little in route. Why not? Like you can't throw like an option route to him. That to me is like it is weird. It's definitely been, and but people have talked about like he needs to help out with blocking, things of that nature. I went and looked at it. He's blocking less on passing downs than he did last year. Yeah. When he's in the game and they're throwing, they throw him out on a route, right? Like he's just not. The only thing that I could think of is they don't want to make him the primary as much as they would last year because they don't have the time. Like you had Joe Alt last year and you had Blake Fisher. And look, he's not as fast as the whiteouts, right? So like they can and look, half a step or a step is like it makes a big difference in terms of being able to get a route off. And so I get that, right? And so maybe that's it. Maybe it's like we don't want to throw a corner to Mitchell Evans because we don't know that we can get it off. Whereas if we throw the same thing to Jaden Greathouse or Jaden Harrison or Jordan Faison or whoever it might be, like we know they can get that off because they're going to get to the route quicker. And that's the only thing I can really think of. I don't know that I buy that as much but like it's just like that's the only way that I can figure that they're not doing those things. And like you said, they're throwing it to him short. Well, it's like, yeah, we're going to get it out to him quicker so try to make him move. But like I like his run after catch. I don't love it. It's not like I think that that's how he's going to make his money in that. Like he's not Michael Mayer in that sense, like Mayer was pretty good in the open field. I don't think Mitchell Evans is that good, Right. Mitchell Evans is like you said, like he's a contested catch guy. He's in traffic. I'm going to make a catch. You do have.
Yeah, he's like a break a tackle on a safety. He's trying to tackle a guy who's 6'6", 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's how he's going to win. He's not going to win by like total like juking a guy or, run away from anyone like Brock Bowers. I'm not saying that, but like, it just seems like it is a wasted opportunity. There are wasted opportunities to not, and maybe this will be something that will take off with him, but I don't know. Like to me, like I just think they have to find some way to get him kind of involved there, especially too if I'm like if it's, and I know you don't want to throw picks, you don't want to do any of this stuff too, but like basically Notre Dame is like you might as well just punt on 3rd and long, but based on how they've thrown the ball on 3rd and long. And and I know you want to protect certain things there and all that kind of stuff too, but maybe every once in a while that's an opportunity to take that shot to Mitchell Evans.
Our boy Ge Wang's in here. Leonard never got to throw to him in practice at all. Is that maybe something? So Mitchell Evans was, we come to find out, very limited in fall camp, right? So there's no rapport between Evans and Leonard. I mean, there never would have been because it's not like he practiced in the spring. It's just a function of the injury that Evans had. He wasn't full go. It's possible that's a factor, but at this point, like let's not dismiss it completely, right? Like you wrote about it, like there are opportunities available. Let's see if they come to fruition here, right? And we also have to remember, like the nature of the way Notre Dame throws the ball in their passing game. It's not going to be like last year when he has like a huge game.
No,
right?
It's not going to be like that.
Like we're all jazzed up about Jordan Faison caught 5 passes for 56 yards, right? Like it's not like he hasn't. It's not like he went out there and was like 5 for 142. Like that wasn't it. But there is more available to Notre Dame. What is there anything about Florida State that can give Notre Dame trouble? Let's talk about Notre Dame on offense first. What can Florida State do that Notre Dame might have some problems with, and what do they need to exploit within Florida State's defense?
I mean, they have really good they have singular talented defensive linemen. I wouldn't say the defensive line has played great as a unit. They have not, but they have good defensive linemen. Like they have probably 4 or 5 guys that will probably get drafted in the NFL. And that's like very rare to have for a team that's 1-8. You just don't play many teams like that. Like if you look at, say, when Trevor Laws had his monster, 2007 season, well, he was kind of like on his own in terms of where he was relative to most of the defensive linemen that he was playing with, right? Like he was in a class above where they got guys like, I think both their defensive tackles are good. Like they're good players. They're not consistent, but they're like, I mean, they're both dudes. Like, I mean, Notre Dame would love to have them, like most teams would love to have them. Like, Josh Farmer, Darnell Jackson. So Darnell Jackson Jr., 6'5", 328. Josh Farmer, who's 6'3", 316. And both these guys were on Feldman's freak list. Like, so those guys can be disruptive. They can be disruptive. Overall, they're pretty productive in terms of like they can push the pocket. They can do a lot of things. It's just that they don't have enough around them to kind of be there. And like Patrick Payton was like had a monster year last year, and he's having just an okay year this year. Like he's probably lost money this year based on how he's thinking. But like Marvin Jones Jr. is like a twitchy dude who was like a 5-star kid. He went to Georgia, transferred over, and he was thought he was going to be like a total breakout guy. And he's just been fine. Like he's just been fine. He just hasn't been dominant. They're just not Jared Verse as that kind of level. So, but they're good enough that if Notre Dame doesn't play well on the offensive line, or they're not playing up to the level, like they could give them a lot of problems. They could definitely give them a lot of problems. And I would say talent wise, it's the second best defensive line based on raw talent that they've played after A&M probably. I mean, they're right up there with Louisville, I would say. But like, and I mean, Louisville obviously gave Notre Dame a ton of problems, right? So, but you know, you got Billy Schrout back, so that you know that certainly helps. But that would be something to monitor. And they have two good outside corners. One of them is kind of banged up right now. So that's going to be something to kind of monitor with them, like whether or not like how healthy they are, because they've been had to play like a lot of young corners there. And you know, Fentrell Cypress is the one who's banged up. He's the guy who started for them last year, kind of was like a part-time starter. But he was like a really good player at Virginia, was like a all ACC kid in 2022. But they just haven't made plays. Like they were one of like the top defenses in like passes defended last year. You know, they have 2 interceptions all year. You know, they are not good in havoc rate comparatively to where you would expect them to be. Like they were a top 15 team in havoc rate last year. You know, they're like, you know, below average really in that this year, right? And but they can get after the passer. If you just draw back all day, they're going to be pretty good. But I think people saw against Georgia Tech where they could have a guy blow up a play and you're like, oh my God, that guy can just totally destroy a play. But the next rep might be bad, right? So, and the linebackers, and they've had injuries at linebackers. They lost two of their best guys. The linebackers are bad. So that like kind of really sticks out.
Hello, Mitchell Evans. Rajon's asking, any chance Notre Dame isn't mentally ready? There is a chance. There is a chance because Marcus Freeman teams have done this. So let's not dismiss it offhand. If that is true, if that is the case, completely unacceptable. What are you doing? What would you be doing? That you want to make the playoffs? If you want to be a playoff team,
I think like, that's 100% on the players. If that's what, you got a lot to play for.
Yeah, they're like you shouldn't. There's so much to play, everything to play for. It's not. You cannot have a mentally like down game. It's just unacceptable. Period. It's your only night game. It would be a complete abomination if that ended up being the case. CFP Hurt says if Notre Dame isn't mentally ready, they win 23-10. They should probably still win, because
even if they're not mentally ready, they still might win 30-10. Like that's how Florida State. Florida
State. Yeah, like Florida State wasn't ready, and they ended up boat racing that team. It's just hard. Like the defense. Here's the thing: the defense has not laid an egg in any game this year. You know, the slow start that they had against Northern Illinois should be fine. It should be good enough to win. It wasn't that day, but that was because of the struggles of the offense that we haven't seen for months. You know, so I feel like they should still be fine. But like, if this team isn't mentally locked in for this moment, for this time of year, I mean, Notre Dame's plan is to have 8 more games, you know, like that is their plan. So you can't be like, oh, you know, we're just gonna just go through the motions in our night game at home against a team that we're coming off a bye and they have been playing. That unacceptable.
I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either, but it would just be completely.
To me, it would probably, if it did happen, more likely at a Virginia, because that's not a night game. That's also like the fact that even though Florida State's 1-8, they could be like, listen, this guy's a dude. Like you could just do cut-ups of what their best thing is.
Florida State does it. Yeah. For players, it just
does. And you know, that is senior day on Virginia. So there's a lot up there that you could see maybe kind of creeping into it. But coming off a bye, all this kind of stuff, like I don't think so. I don't think so. Sam K, yes, Marvin Jones.
I was just about to put that up. There is every
Who's
decade or
that?
so there's a Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones was right before Derek Brooks, I
Yeah.
believe. So
Buckus
he
winner,
was,
yeah.
he was they were good football players, those 90s. We had a fun thread on Irish Sports Daily about like most notable Florida State players. Charlie Ward is one. Warwick Dunn is one. I always liked the name Rock Preston. He was a running back for
Yeah,
them.
I remember Rock Preston.
Rock Preston. Snoop Minnis was a fun guy. He was like 130 pounds, but somehow he always managed to make plays. 93 Florida State. Where were you for that?
I had I think I had a hockey game, and I came home, and I rushed home and then watched that game. I came home and I was there for the second half, and then I watched like the entire second half. And then like everyone else, like, why is this game close at the end here? Because they didn't really seem like it should be, and then but obviously, they got the stop at the end.
Yeah. I had similar. I had a soccer game. I saw the first quarter ish, and came home. I'm trying to remember when I came in. It was right before. It was 31-17. It was right before they hit that miracle fourth down, which is like truly a miracle.
Yeah.
To be honest, like that might have cost them the national championship, actually, if you think about it. Because if Notre Dame wins 31-17, it's kind of like a dominating win. Instead, it came down to like the final play, which allowed people to be like, well, final play, right? And then obviously what happened, you'd think you could consider that play to be, the national title. But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Jay Lamont's talking about Lee Becton and Ray Zeller's run on them. Yeah, Lee Becton, kind of a forgotten guy in terms of great Notre Dame running backs, but he ran for over 1,000 yards that year. He was a special player.
Underrated.
He had the move, which I always kind of emulated. So predictions, Jamie, where are you at?
42-6, Notre Dame. I think that I don't think it's going like there is, a very small chance that you could see, because there's always that chance that like at the beginning of Stanford last season, right?
Yeah.
Where man, they haven't done this the whole season. Then all of a sudden they're getting every break in this game. But then reality hits because you stink. Like you're not good. You're not a good football team. And they're not a good football team. And they can't overcome all the deficiencies they have, even if they do get breaks. Right. So they're not good enough at quarterback, like not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. They're bad at wide receiver, even though they have talent at wide receiver. Ja'Kai Douglas is a good player, right? But like, they're not good. Like, they're not consistent. They're guys who have checked out. So if Notre Dame gets a 2-score lead, it could get to 50 or 60. Like, there is that chance that it could happen. But I think it'll probably just kind of settle in at like, Notre Dame will have like a 2-score lead at halftime, and then just third quarter blow them out, and then it'll go from there. That's kind of where I see it. I just don't think their line has been bad and banged up, and like I said, I think people are going to be motivated like in that game. Like this is also too, like, even though it's a 1-18, like I said, they still have guys, NFL guys, who want to do something, and there'll be plenty of NFL scouts who are at the game. Yeah. So that is the kind of thing where you're like, well, Howard Cross and Riley Mills are probably like, yeah, we kind of want to have a game today and do that. So I think that's what's probably going to happen.
Okay. All right. I've got I'm going 49-7 Notre Dame. I think they're going to dominate them. That's how I see it. I think Notre Dame's going to play well. I think they're ready to play well. I think you made a good point about Virginia. about that being kind of a sneaky, like, okay, like come off the bye on a high, and then you've got Army coming up in New York. I think Notre Dame's going to play well in this one, but maybe Virginia would be a little bit, touch and go. But like you said, Florida State's not good. Like there's a difference. There's a huge difference between like 4-5 and 1-8. It's just that's real bad. So that's where I'm at. 49-7, Notre Dame wins. We can end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Soon, whatever it is, we're going to go live. Jamie and I will be back on Saturday night with a post-game show immediately after, and then I'll have my morning after recap on Sunday as well. So that's what's coming up. You're going to want to subscribe to us so you can catch those things. Have a good rest of your weekend, folks. We'll talk to you after the game on Saturday. Keep hitting and hustling.